Hey everyone! So today we're going to dive into two modern fables that have been making the rounds online. Now they might look like simple little stories on the surface, but trust me, they've got these incredibly powerful, timeless lessons about beating some pretty unbelievable odds. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Both of the stories we're looking at today really circle around this one central question. When the powerful are in the wrong, what can an ordinary person actually do? I mean, think about it. Whether you're up against a corrupt official or just a totally catastrophic event, what power do you really have? That's the big question we're going to explore.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to introduce our two stories. Then we'll dig into the tale of a super clever samosa seller and a bet that seems totally impossible. After that, we'll pivot to a farmer's family and see how a unique invention was born out of complete disaster. And then, at the end, we'll tie it all together and see how it all comes down to the victory of wit and courage.
Okay, let's start by meeting the heroes of these two stories. They're very different, but you'll see they're also surprisingly similar. One is dealing with plain old human corruption, and the other, a natural disaster.
So, on one side, we've got Manish. He's a samosa seller who's famous in his village, not just because his food is amazing, but because the guy has a razor-sharp wit. And on the other side, we have Ganesh and Madhuri, a humble farming couple. Their strength? It's all about their hard work and just incredible resilience, even when tragedy strikes. So two different sets of heroes, two very, very different challenges.
Let's kick things off with Manish's story. This one is a total classic, you know? It's the ultimate battle of brains versus brawn.
So the whole conflict gets started when a new police inspector, a guy named Vijay Kumar, gets transferred to the village. And he makes it pretty clear from day one that he's not there to serve and protect. No, he's there to serve himself. And this guy is just so brazen about it. This quote right here literally says, "I can't get by without bribes." He actually says this out loud to another officer explaining that his expenses are, and I'm quoting him here, a bit hi-fi. So yeah, there's no subtlety. He is 100% the villain of this story.
So naturally, Inspector Kumar starts shaking down the local businesses. And that, of course, includes Manish. He just rolls up and demands a bribe for Manish parking his vehicle. But Manish, being the quick thinker he is, he doesn't just panic and pay up. No, he challenges the inspector's entire argument.
And this quote just brilliantly shows you his style. He basically says, "Don't you know the difference between a car and a cycle?" He points out that his bicycle is mobile. It doesn't have a fixed spot. So what exactly is he supposed to be bribing him for? He uses pure logic and, a little bit of sass to just completely dismantle the inspector's demand. He just flips the whole power dynamic right on its head.
So the inspector is furious that he's been outsmarted. He decides he's going to trap Manish with what looks like an impossible bet. It's totally designed to humiliate him and, put him back in his place.
I mean, just look at the conditions of this bet. The inspector lays out these 4 rules that just seem to completely contradict each other. Manish has to sell samosas while riding his cycle. Okay, but the samosas can't be on the cycle. And he has to serve the customers, but he can't use his hands to give them the food or to take their money. It really seems like a foolproof trap, right?
But Manish's solution is, it's genius because it's so simple. The next day, he's out there riding his cycle with the samosas in a basket, balanced right on his head. So when a customer stops him, he just lets them take a samosa from the basket themselves and then asks them to put the money directly into his pocket. He followed every single rule. He won the bet and left that inspector totally speechless and humiliated.
Okay, now let's switch gears and turn to our second story. It explores the exact same theme, but from a totally different angle. Here, the enemy isn't a corrupt person, it's the crushing force of nature and poverty.
Ganesh and Madhuri's family, they had very simple dreams. They were just hoping their next pea harvest would be good enough to buy a new school bag for their daughter, a cricket bat for their son, and a new umbrella for the family. That's it. And these small, humble goals are what make what happens next even more heartbreaking.
In a single night, their entire world is just shattered. A massive hailstorm comes out of nowhere and completely destroys their whole crop. Their only source of income, gone, just like that. And to make things even worse, their cruel landlord uses this as an excuse to kick them out of their home. So now they're at their absolute lowest point. Their children are starving. And Madhuri makes this incredibly painful sacrifice. She takes off a silver chain, the last thing she had from her own mother, to sell it for a little bit of flour. Her words here really capture the depth of their desperation. It translates to,
Today, a mother has to sell this for her children's sake.
But, it's in this moment of just complete hopelessness that the seed of a brilliant idea is planted. An act that was born from sheer desperation ends up becoming their salvation.
Madhuri goes back to their ruined field and she manages to salvage just a few of the leftover peas. But instead of just boiling them, she decides to try something new. She fries them first and then makes a curry. She literally invents an entirely new dish out of the wreckage, tali hui matar ki sabji, which means fried peas curry. And what happens next is just incredible. They decide to try selling it at the market, and people are immediately fascinated. The taste is totally unique, it's delicious, the dish is a massive hit. In fact, on their very first day, they get a huge catering order for a religious festival. Their fortunes change, literally, overnight.
So we've got two very different stories here, right? One is about outsmarting an enemy, and the other is about innovating in the face of total disaster. So now, let's connect the dots and find that common thread.
This table really breaks it all down perfectly. In Story 1, the challenge was a corrupt inspector. The weapon, wit and quick thinking. And the result was a victory over injustice. Then you look at Story 2. The challenge was crop ruin. Their weapon was courage and a totally new idea. Innovation. And the result was a victory over poverty. So, two different problems, but a very similar path to victory. They used the power of their minds.
And that really brings us to the core takeaway here. The ultimate lesson from both of these modern fables is that your most powerful asset is never going to be money or status or physical strength. It's your mind. It's your ability to think differently, to innovate under pressure, and to act with courage when it feels like all is lost.
So, as we wrap up, I'm just going to leave you with this question to think about. Whether you're facing a bully or just a major setback, when you're challenged, what is your greatest strength? Is it your wit, your resilience, your creativity? Because as these stories show us, that's the real tool that's going to see you through.